Hi, my name's Nathan Carroll. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Communication, Theater, and Art here at the College of St. Scholastica. Well, the title, Obsessed Cinema, was the best way to kind of come up with a succinct link between all four of these films. There's an interesting story behind them, but at base we're talking about filmmakers obsessed with the art of filmmaking and obsessed with producing obsessed characters within their stories themselves. So each of the three filmmakers represented across 4 films in the 2 days in the film series are really obsessed with obsessed subjects that they put up on screen. So in the case of Werner Herzog Eats His Shoe, we're talking about a director so obsessed with the art of cinema that he's actually going to live up to a vow he made that when his friend finally got his first movie made, he would eat his shoe in a public setting, in a public demonstration. So the great German filmmaker Werner Herzog in 1979 then goes out to Berkeley and has this event filmed. And instead of just eating a shoe in front of public, which would be one way to do it, he uses it as a chance to expound upon his philosophy of cinema and why he's so obsessed with it and what the transformational power of cinema might be. In the case of Errol Morris, the director of Gates of Heaven, he's obsessed with putting obsessed people again on screen in a documentary setting. He believes in kind of the revelatory power of cinema in terms of he believes that humans are fundamentally self-deluded at some level, that we use self-delusion as a means of making our way through the world. Well, in each of his films, his documentaries, he loves to put people in kind of the throes of self-delusion up on screen, and through his interrogation, his camera work reveals a kind of truth at the basis of who they are and their identity. And so in the case of Werner Herzog, he believes in the transformational power of ecstatic images to reveal an emotional truth through cinema. In the case of Errol Morris, he believes in the camera revealing the emotional truth behind people's disguises of self-delusion and the rationalizations they make about the world that they live in. And in the case of Les Blank, he is a far more laid-back filmmaker, and essentially his camera is not as intrusive. He's a lot less manipulative, and he likes to, in general, make films, documentary films, about musicians and about food rituals and the way in which culture produces identity, specifically in little regional cultures across America. So when you're talking about obsessed cinema, it has a lot of meanings, a lot of resonances on a lot of different levels for each of the different film directors. Werner Herzog Eats His Shoe was a small film directed by Les Blank about Werner Herzog living up to a vow he had made that when his friend Errol Morris, the Academy Award-winning documentarian who you know from The Fog of War in recent years, or Standard Operating Procedures. He's probably most famous for freeing a death row inmate through his film The Thin Blue Line. When he finally made his first film, Gates of Heaven, which is a movie about competing pet cemeteries. A completely odd story about, people with different motives, people trying to make a buck off of other people's grief, and then you have versus people who can't make a buck but are in the business for all the right reasons, for the humanity of it. So he makes his movie about competing pet cemeteries, and in so doing shows us a part of human nature through his documentary style, which is very unique. Unlike other documentarians, Errol Morris uses recreations and stagings to help get to the truth. So there's a way to the truth through artifice with Errol Morris. Okay, so Werner Herzog then ate his shoe in this public film once Errol Morris made his movie Gates of Heaven, and that was filmed by Les Blank. That film, Werner Herzog Eats His Shoe, used to be incredibly difficult to find until it showed up on a Criterion DVD with Les Blank's other film, Burden of Dreams, that we're going to be screening for the festival. So Werner Herzog Eats His Shoe is actually being paired with the movie that the vow was made about to eat issue, which is Gates of Heaven, which is why that pairing, and I'll be introducing that pairing. On the second day, we're going to be watching two films. One is a making of, that is a movie about the making of a movie called Burden of Dreams, directed by Les Blank, who had also directed Werner Herzog Eats a Shoe. Well, a few years later, he followed Werner Herzog down to the Amazon to make his epic movie Fitzcarraldo, which to my mind is one of the all-time great films. It has one of the all-time great metaphors in a movie about making movies, which is to say that part of the goal of the film is to literally push a ship over the mountain. And this becomes part of the movie. And it's that kind of obsessed character that always interests Werner Herzog, but it's that kind of idea that obsesses Werner Herzog, who himself is very much an obsessed filmmaker, obsessed with getting these astonishing images up on screen. So the second film on Saturday we'll be watching, Burden of Dreams, is very much about the troubled shoot of Fitzcarraldo in the Amazon, risking tons of people's lives. It has all the makings of a Shakespearean tragic drama in and of itself. What are you willing to do to get a film made? And that kind of becomes the basis for this movie, which the answer is Werner Herzog's pretty much willing to do about anything, including putting his own and his actors and other filmmakers' lives at risk in order to accomplish this. And so in Burden of Dreams, we see one of the great all-time movies about the making of a movie, about the process of filmmaking, and we see obsession at work. And for that movie, we actually got Les Blank to film a special introduction, video introduction for our screening. So we hope that you'll join us for that. And then that evening, we'll be watching Fitzcarraldo itself. And whereas the other movies we've seen in this series are documentaries, Fitzcarraldo is not a documentary. It's a fictional film that has a lot of documentary-like qualities about it, in the sense especially that it's a movie about an obsessed man, and here the movie is being made by an obsessed man at all costs. The story, Fitzcarraldo, is loosely based on a true story of a venture capitalist, a rubber baron, who tries to exploit the land in the Amazon. Well, in the inspired fictional version of this story, Fitzcarraldo is someone who's naively in love with the idea of bringing opera to the natives, literally bringing opera to the natives by building an opera house in the middle of the Amazon jungle. Well, how is he going to accomplish this? Well, he's going to do it by exploiting the land for rubber, but all the land's been taken up. So the only land that's available to him has this impossible distribution route for the rubber that he's harvested to bring it to sale. It requires literally that he needs to traverse a small mountain, a large hill in between two bodies of water. And in the original story that is based on, the man literally disassembled the boat and put it over the ocean, or put it over the mountain. Well, in this case, Werner Herzog did no such thing. He keeps the boat intact. It's a larger boat, and he actually, for the sake of the film, gets the boat pushed over the mountain. So he's almost more obsessed than the actual character who the movie Fitzcarraldo is based on. And of course it's about this, again, this fantasy of delusion in getting these ecstatic images. We see Fitzcarraldo as just self-delusion at full work, that the end justifies the means. And anything he can do in order to get this opera house built in the middle of the Amazon jungle will justify it at all costs. And so it's that level of obsession of characters both in front of the screen and behind the camera that ultimately tie all these films together. Very different films. If you watched all of them individually on their own, they're all great movies, and yet they all have this unique thematic link. So we're hoping that everyone can join us for all of them, or at least as many as you can. It should be a really interesting film festival. In many ways, it's kind of an ideal film festival for me. That is somebody putting together a film fest. Initially, the idea was just for a documentary film festival, but wouldn't it be great to get Fitzcarraldo as well? So we had initially planned to have this film festival in the fall, but it took us a while to secure all the performance rights. I'm glad to say that we have all those secured. The film festival should be a lot of fun. We hope everyone will join us. So the film festival is Obsessed Cinema. We hope you can come. It's Friday, February 12th at 7 p.m. will be a double screening. First of the 20-minute film Werner Herzog Eats a Shoe, followed by Errol Morris's Gates of Heaven, and I'll be introducing both of those films. The next screening will be Saturday, the 13th of February, Saturday, and it'll be in the Science Auditorium as all the screenings will be. And this will be for Les Blank's Burden of Dreams, which is at 2 p.m., and that's the movie that's about the making of Fitzcarraldo. And Fitzcarraldo then will be showing that night, Saturday, February 13th at 7 p.m. in the same place at the Science Auditorium. And that'll be introduced by Dr. Steve Ostovich, the chair of the philosophy department. So we hope you can make it, and it's free, and we just like to see bodies and seats and show you some good movies. Well, in terms of thank yous for help putting on this event, first and foremost, I have to thank Brad Snelling from the library, who's been my cohort in all these, and he's really helped me research and put together all the image and film rights on these film series. Also, Mary Zimmerman in PR for all of her incredible help in putting this together, and advertising, coming with some great out-of-the-box ideas. Brian Martin for working on the poster design with us. The School of Arts and Letters and the Department of Communication, Theater and Art, and the Department of Philosophy, and the CSS Library for their help in sponsoring with funds. So it's all free to everyone, as well as the CSS Film Society for their support in putting this on. So I think that covers about everyone, and we certainly, again, hope to see everyone there.